remember the times that you have held your head high and told all your friends of your Indian claim. Proud good lady and proud good man, your great-great-grandfather from Indian blood sprang, and you feel in your heart for these ones. Oh, it's written in books and in songs that we've been mistreated and wronged. Well, over and over I hear those same words from you, good lady, and you, good man. Well, listen to me if you care where we stand, and you feel you're a part of these ones. When a war between nations is lost, the loser we know pays the cost. But even when Germany fell to your hands, consider, dear lady, consider, dear man, you left them their pride and you left them their land. And what have you done to these ones? Has a change come about, Uncle Sam? Or are you still taking our land? A treaty forever George Washington signed. He did, dear lady, he did, dear man. And the treaty's being broken by Kim's or Dam. And what will you do for these ones? It's all in the past, you can say, but it's still going on here today. The government now wants the Iroquois land, that of the Chippewa and the Cheyenne. It's here and it's now, you must help us, dear man, now that the buffalo's gone.
Now that the buffalo is gone. Buffy St. Marie. Welcome once again to The Radical Imagination. I'm your host, Jim Vredos, and I'm a sociologist who's taught at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and Yeshiva University here in New York. Resolution Copper, a joint venture company and one of the largest metal and mining companies in the world, wants to build the nation's largest copper mine in the Apache holy site of Oak Flat, Arizona. In 1955, President Dwight Eisenhower designated Oak Flat as an area off limits to mining. However, in 2015, the National Defense Authorization Act authorized a resolution to use the land in Oak Flat in exchange for other lands in Arizona, and former Arizona Senators Jeff Flake and the late John McCain signed off on the resolution. It's only the most recent of the many, many examples in Americans' history of theft and attempted theft of sacred tribal land from its indigenous peoples. For 5 years, the Apache Indian Tribe has been fighting back against this exchange, but time is running out. As Reverend William Barber of the Poor People's Campaign has put it, if a mining company wanted to tear down the Vatican to harvest the minerals underneath its soil, there would be a public outcry around the world. If an oil company wanted to build a drilling rig in the middle of Jerusalem, there would be protests far and wide. So why are these sacred tribal lands any different? Today on The Radical Imagination, we have the leader of the movement to stop the corporate exploitation of native lands and to save, protect, and defend sacred Oak Flat. Wendsler Nosie is the former chairman of the San Carlos Apache Tribe, an activist who is also a member of the National Steering Committee of the Poor People's Campaign. Along with a delegation from the San Carlos Apache Tribe, He joined the official launch of the campaign with Reverend Barber in 2017, and in 2018 followed a sacred journey connecting with indigenous people across the country. Since then, they've built a relationship across faith, race, issues, and geography to find common ground in this sacred and moral struggle. We at the Radical Imagination support the congressional efforts to overturn the legislation that allowed this to happen in the first place, and support the preservation of sacred Oak Flat against the immoral greed of corporations. As Wendsler puts it, this is a place where gifts were given in this part of the world to make people understand it. How can anyone destroy a religious place that has significant meaning? With the coronavirus expanding exponentially and threatening more and more of us around the world, a silver lining in the face of this catastrophe could be the raising of our consciousness about the preciousness of life, a deeper, more profound gratitude and realization of the gifts given to us in the world. Indigenous peoples in the country have understood this for generations. They've come to see their sacred role as shepherds, to preserve and live in harmony with the life, land, animals, and nature they found around them. They've done it with love, honor, duty, care, cooperation, respect, and healing. We all need to start learning from them to survive this catastrophe. We all need to stand with Wendsler and the Apache Indian Tribe as they put their bodies and souls on the line. Saving, protecting, and defending sacred Oak Flat is saving, protecting, and defending us all. Now, Wendsler has been unable to join us today. Just this morning we talked. He has a family emergency, so we are going to be showing clips of Wendsler and the movement for the remaining part of our show. He, however, will be on the show as soon as possible. We're rescheduling, and we welcome him when he does come in person to our show. So in the meantime, we will have a series of clips with Wendsler talking about the importance of Oak Flat, then another one where he is risking arrest at Oak Flat with Reverend William Barber, and a third one where he is at the San Carlos Reservation. And then finally, we will finish with a couple of beautiful, poignant songs from Buffy St. Marie, including Universal Soldier. So thank you again for watching The Radical Imagination. We will have you on very shortly, Wendsler. Enjoy the clips. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again next week.
Has been asked so many times, how is this place sacred or holy? And the example that I can give close to that is no difference to Mount Sinai. I think a lot of people can relate to that and how the Holy Spirit came to be. Well, that's no different here, and that's what we're trying to get across to people. It's a religious place, a holy place that gives that teaching of God's creation to all of us. Well, it's like we've always said, it's been time immemorial because it's a part of our oldest language that we have. It's a part of the ceremonial activities that takes place. But most importantly, when a parent is building the foundation of the family to the very youngest one, relating to the very oldest one, it's all implemented in the very young person's life. We can't forget that there's a generation yet to be born. This is their identity. This is their religion. This is what God blessed this side of the world first with. Well, it's not a memory. It's our life. From generation to generation, it's passed to us. And I think that's what brings me close to the people before me that knew our civilization, that knew real freedom, that we're free people. And to stand here and be here in the place where a lot of them came for that blessed gift is really something that I hold important, because that's being given to my children and to my grandchildren now. That's going to all end Yeah. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone that's out there and able to hear this message. You know, my name is Wendsler Nosie. I'm from the San Carlos Apache Tribe. I'm a Choctaw Apache. And so today we're here at Oak Flats, a very special holy place to not only the Apache people, but people who have come here and have visited. And most importantly, to learn and to feel insight that there's something happening in the world that we have to pay attention to. And coming here today, as you can see the water, the canyon, you know, this is where the people before us, who knew the Creator as the way we should know the Creator, had come daily and did their spiritual rituals so that they could be in balance with life. Well, here is our water, Turuhi. This is the giver of life, which I know everyone understand the value of life through this. This is what gives us tomorrow. And if this is all gone, then there is no tomorrow. And so the Indian people, the native, the indigenous, Inahi, which is who we are, the Creator gave us that responsibility. But He gave it to us in a way that we have to handle this in a spiritual way. Because spirituality, and if it's done in that format, will achieve the most precious blessing. And that's our children and all those yet to come. And that's what brings me here. That's what gives me this life. That's what gives me the hope for what tomorrow is going to be. Because it's really important that we come together. We share that information with our children. We help give direction to our children, because those children will bear children that we say today that's yet to come. And this is a place of special healing. This is a place of where you listen to the Creator and all the things that it brings here for us. It's a time to retouch the mother, and the mother will speak to you, give you that vision, that mission for you, and that direction, and most importantly, to give us that strength about what tomorrow is going to be.
Tell me how important the UN Declaration is for your tribe.
Well, it's very important, only because like I was saying, what I was trying to say in there was that you know, we've been through the system, and the system has failed us. And the United States had a lot of opportunities to really help correct those things. But right now we're fighting mining that's happening in Arizona, plus fighting for the aquifers that involve land swap between the United States and Resolution Copper. And so going through the steps from the very bottom up, it's really annoying because it seems like nobody listens to us when we have trust responsibility, when we have supposedly consultation. And not only that, from the first intrusion, they have all the information about us Apaches of how sacred and holy these places are. And then the promises that they made all the way up to 1872 and even beyond that. And so, you know, where do we go with this fight? You know, we've been to the White House a number of times. You know, we've been to the Hill a number of times, you know, over and over and over. But the same thing, who's cutting a deal with who? Who's helping who? And so there's got to be a third alternative, and that's where I'm hoping with this declaration, that is that the third one? Is that the one that's really going to help Indian tribes? Because as I mentioned in there, you know, the United States victimized all the tribes. And there probably needs to be a third party to say who was wrong and who was right, and what should be the remedy from that. And so I'm hoping that this would be important, that if that the United States does take a look at it and do sign, you know. But again, it's going to be political, so we'll see what the outcome is going to be. But like I was saying in there, Indian tribes have been good. I mean, they've followed the law, they've followed everything. So, you know, right now it's going to be embarrassing if they don't even get to that point of supporting the tribes. So we'll see.
Here, they walk in Chonsha, the walk stable stuff in Tekine, they go off stuff in that sounds like here. First, just giving thanks to my Creator for allowing me to speak here on the First People's land. You know, when we come from the mountaintops, is to assure that we give the blessings to speak here on this land to the First People. Because where the Creator gave me life was in the mountains. And so that's always the respect that we give. I guess for those of us, you know, we still see that life first before we see the American states, I guess. You know, we see what we see first. And so that's important. And then the second part of that is giving thanks to all of you. You're all God's children. You're all under the Creator like we are. And just the fact that we come together tonight. I'm really stunned tonight. I'm really emotional, I guess you could say, is what's carrying me right now. Because years ago, we talk about healing. We talk about the greatest sin, the greatest devastation that took place here in America. And to add with that, we're like rape victims. that the victims have never been cured and causes social illness. Growing up from a mother, from her parents were brought in as prisoners of war in San Carlos, they outlined this stuff. They lived this life. So my mother was raised by her grandmother in the 1800s, who was brought into San Carlos as prisoners of war. My grandfather on my dad's side was just a month late by being captured. And if he was, then where Geronimo was sent, me, my brothers, my family, we would not be here today. But because it was a month later, we're here. But we were confined to the reservation. And the people before us suffered. So when I give the example to people who are trying to understand what I'm trying to say, and being able to go to the Bay Area in California and to see Alcatraz, and to see people that were brought there for reasons. But imagine them being told, this is now your home, this is now where you live, this is now where you got to greet your family. In the meantime, an ocean of water circulates that island. So for us, the reservation is exactly that. That's what it is to us. Because in San Carlos alone, we have 15 different types of Apache, which leads into different types of clans. But then you have to understand the military records, the state of Arizona's record about enforcing us into this reservation. So my mother always used to tell me, it's just like looking at the European map and put your finger there and go about 300 miles or 500 miles around. You hit different countries, different people, and they're respected in their ways. But for us, we're all blanket into one. And we're told we're Indians. And we're all punished for no reason. You know, it's like they say, there was no chiefs, there were families. There were spiritual people who knew what God created in this world. And the language comes from those elements that God created of how we can converse with the wind, with the water, with the animals. And like they say, that there would probably never ever be a time of that kind of religious freedom ever experienced again. And this is what the old people said. So the old people lived when they were younger in a way of a prison life, detached from everything that they were. And then bore children on the reservation is like where my mother came from. And not understanding who they are. Fathers, mothers not even able to share what God had given us in the very beginning. But now got to make do in old San Carlos, which was called Household 40, at temperatures 117, 120 degrees. And a lot of our people dying from those elements that they had to face when we were mountain people, taken away from those places. Then comes the next children that were born about misunderstanding and using what little frame that we live in to understand. But then what they said was that there's going to be a time that children will stop and say, why is it different outside for them than for us? Because even today, when we see the commercials and we see things on TV, those things don't apply to us like it does for Americans. It does not apply to us. But all Americans think that it does. All Americans think that because we have a reservation that we're taken care of and that we'll have those lands forever. That's not true. You know the English word. What does reservation mean? You can use your credit card and call a motel and reserve a room for you because you're going to come use it, but it belongs to somebody else. It's the same thing for us. We lease these lands, 4 acres for $25 a year. And people get upset with us and say, well, you have it made. We don't own the land. It's owned by the United States government. And if you look at the original territories of Apache country and reservations, you will see how big it was in Arizona until copper, gold, silver was all found, and how the United States dwindled those lands away, forcing people off their indigenous homelands where God spoke to us, in reference to what my granddaughter was talking about, forcing us onto a reservation that no longer allowed us to be who we could be. So, the people say, and these people that had talked to us was in the 60s, early 70s, who now, many of them have passed away, who'd said, if you ever could go home, take us with you. We will pack our bags and leave this reservation and go home. Many of our people died with that wish. But as it was told to us, there'll be a next generation that will hit that wall and say, hey, this is wrong. This is wrong. And for me growing up, I never thought that day would be here. It's here. That generation that they spoke of is here. But now they say, well, what's going to change this? Because 90% of our native people were wiped out from the face of the earth. My family, the Chiricahua Apaches, just on the other side of Mount Graham, within the late 1800s, early 1900s, was 36,000 Chiricahua Apaches. Today on the reservation in San Carlos, there's less than 100 of us. And very few in Oklahoma and Mescalero. This is what happened to all the different bands, and some bands no longer exist because they were totally annihilated. And what we say is, when is it going to be fair? When are we going to be true to what we call America? Because in our perception, America is kind of a hypocrite. And then when you see studies being done, and I don't know if you've seen the ones when they compare Germany with America. They used the example of America in Germany. Let's not forget that, because that was the guiding tool of the Germans during that time, because of what America did. But we kick all this underneath the carpet to never let it be exposed about what happened to the first people. But yet, America leaves us with social illness, social problems. Because what we face today comes from post-war. But no, the United States is not going to want to bring this up. They're not going to want to talk about it. Because they already propaganda everything to every one of us out here. Even to us. Believing. But yet, when you come to the point to start questioning and wanting things better, then you realize the impact. They remind you you're an Indian. They remind you we control you. My mother tells me the story that these young couples got married, young teenagers. And there was an abundance of food because of the teaching and the values of the family. So when these young couples went out on their own and began to have their own family, Food was plenty. The family was happy. Everything was in sync. But as the man became older and older and older, everything started to drop. The amount of food, all these things were depleting. So the family began to worry. And the mother, being older than she is, told her son, follow your dad. Something's wrong. Because your dad used to bring all these abundance of stuff. But now he's just bringing in a trickle of things. So the son followed the father. Eventually got back before his dad and told his mother, Mom, Dad still knows where everything's at. Mother says, really? Then what's wrong? Dad is too slow. He can't catch and he can't get there in time to bag that deer. He's too slow. So they said, what are we going to do? We're going to have to confront Dad. Because now Dad has to let go that rein and allow his son to do that job. So the moral of that is sometimes we're too proud and we don't know when to let go. So this spiritual journey is a spiritual for all of us. It is not an Apache fight. It is not a Native American fight. It's a spiritual fight for all of us, for our children that are yet to be born. And that's what God has given every one of us, that responsibility. And if we fail to use that, then we fail within our hearts for what God created. That's something very important that we all must understand. Because it takes you making that initiative to make it happen. But if not, we all have failed. Let me make it loud and clear. In Indian country, in all the fights that we fought, we've not lost, we've been cheated. By exactly what happened in December. If you do a chronology, these types of exemption is what has been destroying Indian country. But you know what's really crazy? They've also been destroying you. Because if you look at every disaster that has taken place, the United States has given exemptions from the law. And what I've come to learn and realize, a lot of Americans don't know that. In my towns that surround the reservation, many of them don't even know what an administrative process is. Well, what is that, Mr. Nosie? You're arguing loud and clear. What is that? And I'm looking at them like, what? The administrative process enact laws that protect the land and the value. So now we find ourselves educating the communities around us about how government works. A North Carolina congressional leader, when Resolution Copper did what they did late night and got it through, feeling heavy, walking into the North Carolina congressional leader, and him telling me, Mr. Nosie, if all American, not just Native Americans, if all Americans can have seen and been a part and witnessed what has happened, not only the Native Americans will be protesting, but all Americans will be protesting. This is ugly. What they did wrong was putting your issue on the floor of the House and the floor of the Senate. You need to expose the way Congress works. If anybody can do it, I've always believed the Native Americans can do it. Because Congress has done this time and time and time again. So Mr. Nosie, if you can create an uprising in America, you definitely have me to repeal this bill. Because we need the American people to stand with you. I have this drum here because it's one of our oldest song. Very old song. And I just want to sing a quick verse to you. Banseyo, banseyo, hey banseyanga, banseyo, hey yanga, banseyo, banseyo, hey banseyanga, banseyo, hey yanga. That is the mother, like a son, the mother earth. And they say bonsai comes together like this, and they say that once it hits, then God's Spirit is here. This is an ancient song of the Apache people of praying and been given to them by a Holy Spirit that this will connect. In my lifetime, I've never dreamed that that song is actually happening. And what I'm trying to say is that you from Arizona, or you're here tonight in Arizona. When North America was conquered, it spread like fire. The last place that it burned out was here in Arizona. So when us Apaches look at the rattlesnake, from the head to the tail, that very last coil is us. But now this very last coil of the snake doesn't represent just us, it represents here. So what it is told to us is that the Creator, who's known throughout the world by many names, has spoken here in what people know as Arizona. So Arizona, are you going to be behind us? Are you going to be supporting what God is calling us to do? Or are you going to be in limbo land and not doing anything? So Arizona, let me hear you. God has touched this world and He has touched it here. So as the people say to me, God has spoken, now those who hear Him will stand with Him. Are there those of us going to deny what we just heard and what has been rumbling? Well, this is all Christians and all religion. All of us are being called to the table. From reports that we're getting, there's massive movements throughout this country unifying. And let me end with this. The United States government created tribal governments. Never before has the United States seen over 400 plus tribal nations pulling together. You got to remember, the United States created tribal governments. They never thought tribal governments will turn on the United States. Because in the Constitution of the United States, they have an amendment for tribes. And not only that, they write the oath of office that tribal leadership will always adhere to the United States government. Well, that's changing, because today, all throughout Indian country are passing resolutions against John McCain, Rio Tinto, and Resolution Copper. So this is why the United States Congress is taking notice, because now the tribes are standing together. But what's also frightening them is the progressive Baptists, who is the Martin Luther King people back east, have now joined the fight. Universities are joining the fight. You are joining the fight. The churches are joining. Because what I have told them, I guarantee that when we come to Washington, D.C., not only are you going to see Native Americans, you are going to see Americans calling for a repeal on this bill, and for the United States to begin to serve its people of this country. And last but not least, you know, my heart goes out to the third world countries, because many of them have sent their people here to witness what the United States has just done to their indigenous people. And it's really sad to report and let you know that they've gone home more feared than ever before because of what John McCain did to the indigenous people of this country. Now you have to remember that this bill is federal land. We live on federal land. So if this stays, then the precedence has been set for the future for our people, for land bases to be taken away, for religious rights to be taken away, for the right to be who we are will be destroyed. Because one of the parts my granddaughter speaks of in catching all this together was, I don't understand why are we the only one they are attacking in our religion, when they at any time should question the Bible. They can board a plane, ride a boat, and go to the holy places and come back with their Bible even more stronger to preach, which is nothing wrong. But why is it that nobody cares about our holy land, our sacred land, where the songs, the ceremony, the identity is built in and will be destroyed by Resolution Copper, and no longer existing the holy place? To where are these kids, my granddaughter and all the ones sitting here, what would they say to their grandkids? Because now they will rebut everything within our identity, because it's no longer present. So I really appreciate the churches. I really appreciate their initiative, because we are all a religion. We all have trails to the top of the mountain that leads to the Creator, God, who's known throughout the world by many names. It is not right for us to allow these individuals for greed to destroy one religious road. And so that's the biggest fear that it brings to us about our children. Because at least I could touch it. At least my mother showed me. At least I passed it on. But for my granddaughter and the rest that you see there, they won't have that opportunity. And that is what John McCain is taking away. And that is tragedy. And of all places here in America, so, remember, we can make the difference. Remember, by praying all together, good will come from that. The road to Washington is going to be tough. The road to Washington is going to be identifying characteristics from good people and bad people. There'll be people yelling in joy for us. There'll be people yelling us to go home to the reservation. This is what these people are going to encounter. And that's why it's so important that your prayers are with us on this journey. But most importantly, if you have friends relatives, or yourself that can be with us on the lawn of Washington to show that the American people have spoken, and for our leaders to correct this tragedy that we're heading down, to correct it now would definitely improve the United States in its decision making from that point on, regardless wherever in this United States that we call. And also to all those Congress people that still support us, we still need to pray for those people. And those Congress people who are on the fence, and those people who don't understand. Prayers, being guided by the Creator, will bring them on this side. This is the spiritual journey. This is the spiritual fight. But we can't do it without you. So thank you, everybody, for tonight. Thank you. Yeah, it's relatives. Chiki. I want to thank you, the Creator, for those who, before these buildings ever were made, were here before them. It's always good to give recognition to the first people. I want to thank everyone across our country and those who are working very hard by committing their time and effort to the Poor People's Campaign. Many blessings to you. If it was a few years ago, I would be standing here telling you I'm representing Indian country and educating you on all the atrocities that had taken place to our people. But today I say thank you to the Creator for allowing me the opportunity to travel overseas as well as across our country and witness all the atrocities from corporate greed and with bad government policies. What was family and a community base is now being replaced by corporate mentality. So what I say to you today, you are my family, and family cannot be broken. We had our different struggles at different times, but today we're united as family. So the true healing has begun. From the East Coast, military removal of indigenous people had taken place. The manifest destiny took over the country. And our Mother Earth faced many obstacles, with 90% of our Native Americans being wiped from the face of the earth. Social illness began for our people, post-war syndrome, which we still experience today, shortage of housing, major law crimes, infrastructure, elder health, youth care, education. So, many of these things are no different than each and every one of you that struggle every day. The difference with us is the United States holds our tribal land in their trust. We're not able to be what a regular American is and have the same opportunities. Our urgent fight today is water in our sacred and holy lands that are being destroyed by companies, and the federal government giving exemptions to foreign companies like Resolution Copper Company in Arizona. Right now, all our nation resources are being under attack by corporate companies. These remaining places must be saved.
Yes.
In the coming days, Native people will be speaking loud and clear of warnings that we will see as a full attack on the Mother Earth and holy places. For without water, there is no life.
That's right.
And let us work together as brothers and sisters to keep the blessed gift God gave us alive. Akia. Thank you, everybody.
Akia. Yes, sir. Testing. Say, that's what?
That's what
Systemic racism looks like.
systemic racism looks like.
And that's why we stand.
He's 5'2" and he's 6'4".
He fights with missiles and with spears. He's all of 31 and he's only 17. He's been a soldier for 1,000 years. He's a Catholic, a Hindu, an atheist, a Jain, a Buddhist and a Baptist and a Jew. And he knows he shouldn't kill, and he knows he always will. Kill me for you, my friend, and me for you. And he's fighting for Canada, he's fighting for France, he's fighting for the USA. And he's fighting for the Russians, and he's fighting for Japan. And he thinks we'll put an end to war this way. And he's fighting for democracy and fighting for the Reds. He says it's for the peace of all. He's the one who must decide who's to live and who's to die. And he never sees the writing on the walls. But without him, how would Hitler have condemned him at Dachau? Without him, Caesar would have stood alone. He's the one who gives his body as a weapon to a war. And without him, all this killing can't go on. He's the universal soldier, and he really is to blame. But his orders come from far away no more. They come from him and you and me. And brothers, can't you see? This is not the way we put an end to war.
Whether you're a woman or whether you're a man, sometimes you got to take a stand. Just because you think you can, oh, you got to run, you got to run. Whether you're a woman or whether you're a man, sometimes you got to take a stand. Just because you think you can, oh, you got to run, you got to run, run. Trying against the odds, you're in a trance. Say, who did you think you are to have a chance? You're a no one from a place where everyone knows your face. They come and go away, they know